Okay, welcome back. Woo! This is like going faster and faster. Remember I talked to you about the roller coaster and going down the slope, and we're just speeding up, and we're headed towards those loop-de-loops and curlicues, and that's coming up in about the first part of the 1900s with World War I. But we still got to put people together. We still got to build these nations. So let's take a look at the unification of Germany now. So go back again to that situation. What does it look like for the German states, the German confederacy of all these states and kingdoms and duchies? What does that look like? Well, at the end of, or the situation in 1815, it looks much like this. There is the big yellow, that is the Kingdom of Prussia. You have Bavaria, you still have part of Austria, who at this time is within that green border. That's the German Confederacy at that time. You have Hanover. You have all these different kingdoms and duchies that are ruling. And again, just like in Italy, there isn't a sense of unity, of oneness, of commonality between people. Common goal, common culture, common language, etc., etc. So who are going to be the players? Who are the big players? Well, one is King Wilhelm I. He is going to be the king. He's the king of Prussia at this time. And the big guy, the big guy, which is why I made it a bigger picture. The big guy is Otto von Bismarck. He doesn't even look like he's a tough old piece of leather. He's a tough dude. And we're going to look at them. And I want to look at their mindset. I want to look at where they are. These are Prussians. These are the people, they are probably the largest kingdom, force, power in this region other than Austria. And Austria and Prussia are kind of vying and kind of going back and forth of who's going to have influence over whom and all these other little duchies and things like that. So, Wilhelm and Bismarck want to bring the German people together. This becomes a really big goal for Bismarck, particularly. But we got to go back to that revolution of 1848. So as a result of this, prior to Wilhelm taking the throne, there is this uprising, and the middle class, the average person, they gain sort of an advancement. They gain a footing. Up until this point, there was one House of Lords. They were not elected. They were by birth given these or appointed by the king, but it wasn't of the people, for the people, by the people type of thing. They did what they were very conservative, very pro-monarchy. They very conservative. They didn't want to very traditional. They didn't want to change anything. Leave everything the status quo. King is just incredible. He's up there near God kind of thing. But as a result of the revolution of 1848, there was a creation of a second House of Parliament. This is the House of Representatives, and it was established by the middle class. And really, the only power that they had was they had power over Wilhelm's budget. When and how could he spend his money? This is like a really pet peeve of Wilhelm. He believes he has complete and total authority. He's the king. There's nobody that can tell him no. Yet, when he goes to get money for reform for his army, he wants to build it up. He wants to make it stronger, make it more formidable with all that's going on. The House says, nope, you can't do it. And Wilhelm goes ballistic. He needs an answer, a solution to get beyond this house. He wants his money so he can build his army. Well, Wilhelm then appoints Otto von Bismarck as prime minister in 1862. And as you can see from his picture, this guy's not to be messed with. he goes in, after his appointment in September 1862. He goes and stands before the Parliament's sort of like budget committee, and before that Parliament, and he makes this particular infamous speech. He says, "Not by parliamentary speeches and majority votes are the great questions of the day determined. That was the mistake of the 1848 and 1849. But instead, it is determined, or they are determined, by iron and blood." And his whole point is we need to be strong and fight and defend. The world is rising up. We've gotten out of chaos. We've had much revolution. We need a strong military. Give me my money, is sort of his push. There are two words that sort of characterize Bismarck's method of politics. One is called Machtpolitik, which means power politics. Another one is Realpolitik, which means realistic politics. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means muscle your way to get what you want and be realistic. It doesn't have to be moral. It doesn't have to be ethical as a political leader. It just needs to be effective and get results. And that was at the heart of Bismarck. He was a manipulator extraordinaire. He knew how to get things done and get around corners and laws and all sorts of stuff. And what was his goal? To do the king's bidding. Whatever the king wanted, that was what he was going to make sure happened. Nobody was going to stop him. Secondly, to unify the German states into an international power of greatness. He wanted to have the legacy of being the one that unified all of German peoples. And so he sets out to do just that. The first step is the taking of Schleswig and Holstein from Denmark. And that looks like this, right in that circle, right above Prussia. You have Prussia on this side and a little bit on this side, that blue. Right above it, you have Hanover, and then you have Denmark. Denmark had taken control of these regions. These were German-speaking people, but Denmark had them under control. And so in 1863, Bismarck, wanting to take control, decides it's going to ask Austria, its German brother, if it would come in and help him take these regions back in the name of Germany, in the name of the German people, to take them away from Denmark. And sure enough, the alliance works, and Bismarck wins in 1864. In 1866, Prussia and Austria are now arguing, after they have created these sort of provinces in the north that are controlled by the German Confederacy, both by Austria and Prussia. Now the question is, well, what do we do with them? Do we give them full independence and let them go? Or do we, Prussia wants to absorb them. Prussia wants to make them part of Prussia, of course, which is probably Bismarck's goal from the beginning. Bismarck wants to fight. Austria does not want to fight. So what does Bismarck do? Bismarck needs Austria to fight, or an excuse to fight Austria, to put Austria out of the picture and allow Prussia to take those regions. So Bismarck makes a secret alliance with the Kingdom of Italy, who wants that little piece, that northern eastern piece of Italy back from Austria. He makes this secret agreement with the Kingdom of Italy. Hey, you attack from the south and come up and attack and cause this diversion, and we'll come down from the north and we'll just stomp Austria. And that's exactly what happens. As I said in the last video, Italy doesn't do too well. It just gets stomped. But it's enough of a distraction for Prussia to come down and just destroy Austria. And that's what they do. Step one, march troops into Holstein, claiming Austria is rearming the region. It's gossip. It's slander. It's not true. There's no proof of this. He's just stirring the people up. Look what Austria is doing. We need to put them down. They're breaking the treaties and the rules of engagement here. What are they doing? Number two, the day after this starts to happen, he decides he's going to pull or put the proposal to get Germany or create a new German Confederacy constitution that kicks Austria out. Well, Austria's not going to do that. So the ruler of Austria, Franz Joseph I, he responds with, "It is my duty as a ruler, my duty as a ruler has commanded me to call my entire army into arms." And Bismarck is back there going, "Thought so," right? He's just triggered and provoked Austria into a war. Well, what can he do? Can he back out? No, Austria has just declared war. So he's got his next war. So July 3rd, 1866, they have this huge bloody battle, and Prussia wins. They beat back Austria. And on August 23rd, 1866, that war ends. So the question is then, what's next? Look how much territory Prussia has gained. Now, Austria, the old Confederate, is dissolved. It's gone. Austria is not included in the new one, and the new Germany is beginning to be created. But as you see, there's still little regions. Bavaria is still open. Wittenberg is still open. Baden is still open. These little ones in the south, these southern regions. And Bismarck is kind of pulling on his whiskers again. How can I get those southern states? There's no war going on. There's no reason to have any war. Nobody is provoking anything. What are we going to do? How do I get those southern states? Well, I need a common enemy. So Bismarck signs an alliance with Bavaria and says, if anybody comes and attacks us, you're going to come and fight with us. If anybody attacks you, we're going to come and fight with you. We're going to have this alliance. From now on, alliances are going to determine the history of the world in this region. And whether they like it or not, they're stuck with these treaties and agreements. So what's next for Bismarck? Next, he needs another war. So how is he going to create another war? Where is that going to come from? Where is he going to pull that out of his hat? Well, just so happens in 1870, the Spanish queen sort of is dethroned, and they're looking to replace the Spanish throne, whoever's going to sit there. Well, there happens to be a Prussian prince. He's not really from Prussia, but he is part of the Prussian domain, the Russian world, Prince Leopold, and he's offered the throne in Spain as their king. He's reluctant, of course, but France is like totally freaking out. It's like, oh, no way. I'm not going to have Prussia on one side of France and a Prussian family member sitting on the Spanish throne on the other end. I'll be blocked in. So France is going ballistic. They're saying no. They send an ambassador to speak with King Wilhelm in a place called Bad Ems. He's there having conferences, talking a little bit. And in the dialogue, in the going back and forth, Wilhelm writes a telegram that he will not participate in the discussions. He's not in the moment. He wants to talk with his advisors and sort of, lets the ambassador go back home. Well, Bismarck, the little manipulator, gets hold of the telegram before it's sent. And he decides, well, how can I use this to my advantage to provoke a war with France, our old enemy? So he rewrites the telegram and sends it off. So it ends up with this telegram basically saying that Wilhelm, slapped around, treated like a dog, the French ambassador and has no, this whole business with the Spanish throne is ridiculous. It's irrelevant. We don't care. So he's basically wrote an insult on behalf of King Wilhelm, who didn't do it, insulting France. Ha! Take that, right? So what is France going to do? Ha! How dare you? And they come back and they declare war on Prussia in 1870. Well, the problem is, this is Napoleon III again. So Prussia has some benefits here, though. Prussia, it has superior rifle power. It has built an extensive railroad to move troops very quickly toward France to get it to the front line. Remember, Industrial Revolution. The troops outnumber the French troops 2-1. And Prussia, unlike France, is led by very trained, very well-experienced generals. France is not. Napoleon gets captured, so do most of his leaders, and no one comes to France's aid at all. Russia doesn't, Austria does not, because France just spanked them earlier. Britain's too busy. They don't want to get involved. So France is all by themselves. Prussia just spanks them, just knocks them out. I find this stuff funny. All right. So as a result, Prussia wins. And at the Treaty of Frankfurt, signed in 1871, Germany is given that southern region in a sense of, let's unify. We've all fought together against this common cause. So Bavaria and all those other countries say, you are it, we're going to join you, and Germany is now unified. So, we only have one more war during this time span that we have to cover. I have focused mostly this series this week on the European proper conflicts and developments of nationhood. But we need to look a little further west, or a little further east now. Look towards Russia. Russia, what is Russia doing during this time? And where is their sense of, we want to be our own people. We want to have that sense of nationalism and our place of greatness in this great progress of this era. And that's where we're going next week. So take notes, sit back, and then we'll see you again next week for the Crimean War.